This year, Riot Games opened the floodgates for in-game advertising by allowing brands to place banners inside League of Legends for the very first time. Matt Archambault of Riot Games in North America and Itamar Benedy of Anzu.io joined sports business journalist Adam Stern to explain how they're measuring value and how far they believe they can take the concept of in-game advertising without disrupting the fan experience.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, great to be here.
Now, obviously, in-game advertising in esports is kind of a really hot topic right now, in part because what Riot Games did this year with League of Legends Esports. Starting there for Matt, why did Riot decide to introduce the Summoner's Rift Arena banners, and how has it been going so far?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think for us, like, this is something that we've been exploring and thinking about for a lot of years, right? I mean, making a change like this, going into the Rift, as most people know, there's not a lot, if any, brand integration, right, for what we do in the game. If you are a solo queue player, if you're an amateur player, what you get in all of our titles is effectively what you see. So we wanted to make sure that we did it the right way, not to use more buzzwords here, but we wanted to make sure it was authentic and it would come across the right visuals for us. But we also know, if you look at sports in general, you know, like, advertising placements, like on the field, on the pitch, like in the arena, like, there's so much value that it has to it. And so what we really wanted to do is develop that structural play. This is not just hey, let's do it this year. It's 2020. It's been in the works for quite a while, but we wanted to be smart about how we rolled it out. And I think when it got down to it, the way that the banners are set up, the way that they look like they're actually part of the Rift, they kind of fit within the environment. That was a really unique thing for us. And it allowed us to go from both a regional standpoint as well as for some of our global events to take this asset that has so much value in it. And we know that we work with Nielsen, it's come back. And, you know, I think what's really unique about it as well, and, you know, I'm sure Itamar will talk about this too, but like, for us, like, this is something that you see from the fans' perspective, right? If you are playing, it is not something that shows up as you're playing. So if you're a pro, you're not distracted by, you know, Honda ads or by Alienware ads. You're actually still playing the game that you know and you love. It is something that you see from a fan's perspective. And, you know, we felt really good about it. And, you know, thus far, the reaction that we've had, not only from valuation, but also the community, seems to be really strong. And we're eager to do more and really level up that experience.
And how confident were you that you weren't going to have a lot of negative feedback? Obviously, esports fans enjoy being advertised to a certain extent, but they don't want to be overly intrusive. How did you feel like that would go, and what's the reaction been?
Yeah, it's another good question. I mean, I think we did a lot of testing on this, right? You know, it's not like there are a number of banners, but it's not like we're looking at the Vegas Strip where you go down and there's just banner, 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 and it gets a little crazy. So we did do a lot of A/B testing on that. We did a lot of exposure to figure out where we were. We feel like we got kind of a really good mixture of where those banners are, and some of them are embedded into the environment, right? They're in the Dragon Pit, you know, they're in the Baron Pit, etc. Others are along where you actually see traffic, but there's a lot of activation. So what we wanted to do is really find that delicate balance. And of course, we're always focused on players. We're very, very cautious of that, very cognizant of it. And, you know, what we really wanted to do here was, you know, we've seen what's going on, you know, on Twitter, on Reddit, and how the community has really responded. From what we've seen thus far, everyone seems to be reacting very well to it. And, you know, our partners are even happier, right? If we roll out a product and the community throws it under the bus, our partners are also not going to be happy. So this, to me, I think was a really great marriage of actually getting something into the game and in a way that still fit within the competitive ecosystem.
And for Itamar, how does this technology work? Because we know with League of Legends, the players don't see the advertising. But for example, in FIFA, the video game, players have been seeing advertising for years.
Yeah, good question. So I mean, let's differentiate between hard-coded ads, and then we can speak a bit about what we do. So basically, hard-coded ads is what the game developers do by themselves. And the game has control if they want to introduce ads when someone is playing the game at home, or to introduce ads like what Matt described only for esports tournaments. And basically that's up to the game to decide. What we're trying to do is basically bring a technology to make programmatic in-game advertising, number one, more accessible and affordable, and number two, to align it with advertising standards. I mean, Riot, which of course did an amazing job with their execution, has resources that a lot of game developers don't have, in the sense of, you know, like how much time it takes to bring something like this to live. So with our technology, it's a cross-platform SDK. We support all game platforms, all game engines. It's an easy integration for game developers and to basically bring those ads. And again, they can decide to when someone plays the game at home or to the esports tournaments. And then we bring the advertising standards on top of that, the ability to change the content in a dynamic way, the ability to set it in a programmatic way, and the ability to bring all the ad tech vendors to basically evaluate media value.
What trends are Anzu seeing in the marketplace? Are publishers going all in on this yet, or are we still seeing some being a little hesitant?
Yeah, so I mean, of course, we need to speak about different groups and different type of game developers, right? Game developers, mainly on the mobile side, who already monetize today with, pop-ups and in other ad formats, more intrusive one. It's pretty straightforward to introduce them in-game advertising and the ability to monetize every game object and more sessions of the game. So that's maybe the first group. For game developers who basically use today hard-coded ads, that's, for example, what Matt and his team do. It's about what's the value of hard-coded ads versus dynamic in-game advertising, and because they already accept the concept of the ad experience, and it's more around being comfortable with our technology. And then the third group is brands who don't have today ads in the environment, and then our education is around why real brands would make more sense than fake ads, even from a gamer perspective. And there's lots of research. For example, Comscore has some content around like really strong feedback from the community accepting this content if it's done right.
And for Matt, how have you been judging success of these, and what brands have been taking advantage?
Yeah, so we work with Nielsen for just full valuation on everything we're doing. So a little bit of what we've actually measured was we want to understand what the value is for that, right? So we understand what investment is, and we want to be able to deliver that investment plus a multiplier on top of it. So that's definitely a success metric for us as we look at our brands. For the LCS in North America, Honda was our partner going into the fall. So thank you to Phil and Philip and everyone over there. We love you guys and the RPA team. But we were able to get that in. And for us, like, you're able to look at an investment, you're able to see a return, and all of that is a big win in general, right? And then obviously we want to make sure that the client feels like they had enough creative freedom and flexibility where there's multiple placements, there's different ads that can be there. They are hard coded, yes, but those are placements that are built into it. And we also check, obviously we stay very close to what's happening with the social beat, right, on Twitter and what's happening in Reddit and Instagram and everywhere else. And when we see the positive sentiment from the community, that makes us feel like, hey, this is a level up, right? This is a value that we're actually seeing. It's not, oh man, what are you doing here? And I think you said this a little bit earlier, Adam, like, we're not in a place where the esports and the gaming community, they actually accept advertising. They feel like you're supporting something I love. So thank you for helping me do that, right? It really kind of gives that recognition. And it's not, as long as it's done in the right manner, it's done respectfully. That's what I think is really a key thing here. So, we've done that. I know going into our global events, Alienware was involved, Mercedes was involved, Secret Lab was involved, the LEC in Europe, they had, I think, a slew of their partners too. So each region has really looked at things from what's going to work in that region based on where their partners are at. But again, we're rolling out that product next year. We're looking to bring some more partners into it as well, and we're pretty excited about the trajectory of what we're going to be able to do.
And Itamar, from your perspective, how's the return on investment for these been?
Yeah, so like from a marketer perspective, it's about a few things, right? Number one, the ease of use. Because we're integrated into all the DSPs and we use the IAB banners and videos, it's 2 clicks of a button and we're live. So it's easy to execute a campaign. It's very affordable and accessible. And then the bigger topic is how do you give brands confidence about media value? So number one, because gaming in most environments is a 3D world, then ad exposure is much stronger than on 2D environments and websites, and we have a lot of data to back that up. So ad visibility, ad viewability, and ad exposure. Second, because we integrate into the game engine directly, we show significantly less fraud than what's happening in digital today. Number three, because there is, in most games don't have user-generated content, then from a brand safety perspective, it's more safe. On top of all these topics, of course, we do a brand lift impact, also with Nielsen and with Kantar and with other vendors. And on top of all that, we're soon to bring a very, very exciting new solution to connect it to offline attribution purchases, credit cards, holy grail of really understanding the funnel. So, I mean, it's like, so far we get really strong feedback, and like my view is that gaming is going to become an advertising category, same that social search, out of home, and TV are advertising categories. And these integrations and partnerships in place just help brands be more comfortable to get to that point.
And Matt, we know that Nielsen worked with Riot Games for evaluating League of Legends and how the new in-game advertising would go. How did they feel like the kind of bird's eye, top-down view? Was that helpful for League of Legends in making this more valuable?
Yeah, I mean, I think like, they were involved in our testing, right? As we went into it, we looked at, we obviously have heat maps of where people are playing at, early game, mid game, late game, like where all the action is taking place, right? And so in working with them, we were able to, explore, do we add another banner here? Or do we not do a banner here? I think it was really interesting with the view that we do have and the way that we were able to juxtapose those banners in, you were still able to see a ton of brand clarity and the logo integration. So I think for that, it actually came out really well. Not to mention, based on our observer modes and a lot of the other stuff that we do from just a broadcast graphical standpoint, we had a lot of fly-throughs. So we were able to do that really going into and coming out of every game. So you get really that you are a champion running through a lane and you get to see the banners that they are live. And that is something that we've actually been spending more time doing, with all of our leagues and at the global level. And I think that's something else that, again, adds value, because there's another 30-second, 15-second piece where you get to see not only the Rift coming to life, but you are also able to see those banners included in it. So yeah, at the end of the day, I think it was really successful across the board.
Itamar, how big is the revenue opportunity here for publishers?
I mean, the addressable market, I mean, if we look at the number of people play game, for how long they play, so it's a $25 billion addressable market, mobile, tablet, PC, console, esports. So it's a pretty big market. It's totally untapped. I mean, I believe in-game advertising is going to be around 10% of the global revenue for game developers. Of course, I mean, if we look 2, 3, 4 years ahead, I believe a lot of the AAA games will become free to play instead of selling discs for a $60, $70. Lot boxes will need to be controlled, and then this brands in game done in a very authentic environment, the way has a really strong place in that environment. And I think what Riot did with their in-game banners has a huge impact on the market for a few reasons. Number one, everyone gets why in a sport game, like how intuitive it is to put brands. I think what Riot showed the world is that in other environments, it can still be very authentic and bring value and make sense, because there was this misconception that like for fantasy games, like in-game advertising is off the table. So that's number one. And number two is also having this option to have baby steps instead of, before you put ads in the core game when people play at home, you can only monetize esports tournaments or the stream, and then be comfortable as you decide what's the right balance of what to monetize. And so I think, so Matt, thank you for that. and like, I mean, if you combine all of this with where advertising is going, with privacy becoming a bigger topic over personalization, with the IDFA and the cookie dying, and contextual advertising taking a bigger seat, I think it's all really going into this direction.
Now, Matt, we know you work with League of Legends, but could Riot bring in-game advertising to some of its other games?
I think I could say that the infrastructure has been built. And yes, we have other titles that are out there. So, we've actually, bulldozed down certain areas to be able to get where we need to get. Where that rolls out and how that comes into play, I think that's still a future iteration of like what we want to do. But we've done it with our biggest title. We have other titles out there. Obviously, a lot of people are talking about Valorant. We've got TFT and more. So I think you will start to see more integrations as time goes on. Pending the fact that the community and a lot of things that Itamar was saying, right? There are brands that are excited about it, and the community's there. And I think one thing too that I guess I just wanted to touch upon real quick. And sorry, Adam, I know you're about to go into another question, but like a lot of this too, and from a authenticity standpoint, I think there's some unique elements as we dive into it, right? If you're looking at, to pick a different title like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, right? Like putting a Bud Light ad or a Red Bull ad there might be a little bit different, right? Because it's those products weren't around at that point in time. But I think there are plenty of avenues through sports titles, yes, but there are so many other like real life kind of like narrative and worlds, right, where things can be built and integrated the right way. And I think that is something that Summoner's Rift, Runeterra, it's not real, it's completely fantasy, but we were able to spearhead and make it look the way it needs to look, right? And I think that's the stuff that you really kind of get to. You need to have the sensibility of, well, not only just the audience and the demographic, but also the lore that goes into the games and like what are those publishers trying to do, and being able to marry those two things together, I think is really important, specifically in this space because it is so valuable, as Itamar was just saying.
And Matt, just finally looking forward to 2021 and the years beyond, how widespread do you think in-game advertising is going to become in esports wide? Did you guys create a bit of a trend here?
I think like, to use the other analogy, like rising tides, everyone seems to learn from each other, right? All of our publishers, we all know kind of what the other one's doing, and we're always kind of looking at it. For us, even just what we had this year for Rift advertising and what we're planning for next year, there's always going to be product enhancements. We're always trying to level things up, and as we continue to roll out things with Valorant, there's different maps, there's different environments, so there's other stuff that may be available. I definitely can see other publishers getting into this and finding the right avenue to do that, whether it's working with Anzu, or it's working with someone else. Like, I think those are definitely avenues where you're going to see more people adopt to it because the community is reacting well to it. And if it turns into something that gets a negative connotation, hey, we might shift. But you've got to try things, and you've got to be smart about how you're executing.
And Itamar, for you, what do you have your eyes on heading into 2021 in this space?
I mean, for us, it's around education. It's education for game developers that historically monetization was not a business model they were considering. So like showing them that like it makes sense, and that advertising does not always need to be a trade-off with bad user experience, and that in the ad revenue here is significant and reoccurring and something they can rely on. So that's on the game developer side. And also, of course, trusting our technology and our SDK. There's a bad reputation in some cases around SDK integrations. Of course, console game developers don't update their game every month like mobile games. So there was a very special product that was needed to be here in place to serve AAA games. And we're already live with AAA games. We're live with Ubisoft, Nacon, and a lot others. So this can give, of course, confidence. And from an advertiser perspective, it's about, two main things. Still, and you'll be surprised, some brands and marketers don't yet understand what gaming is. Gaming is not geeks locked in their basement. Of course, there's a huge shift around this pop culture topic. Metaverse world gaming is becoming. Still, brands don't get it, and still brands tell us, it's super cool what you're doing, but our audience is just not in gaming. It's funny because with 3 billion people playing at least one game a month, I would argue every brand in the world has an overlap with the gaming audience. It's just about choosing the right game genre and the right game platform to align that. So that still exists. And then, of course, brands who do get gaming, is just them to be aware of this, this capabilities we can bring into the market for the first time, to have, for example, ad viewability done in a 3D world in real time, and bringing what they know from digital advertising, all this sophistication, for the first time to apply it in a AAA game environment. So that's what keeps us busy, but like strong growth in the last 2 years, and looks quite promising for the next years to come.
It's definitely an interesting part of the gaming space. So thanks again to both of you for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.